Shalom, shalom. Want to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, by Hashem, Yahawashi. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth that are learning and or teaching this gospel in truth and sincerity. All right, what we want to do here is, there's been a lot of, talks again recently. This is always a topic that always continuously just kind of stays. There's a lot of doctrines that, pop to and fro and have their season in which they hear a lot of false doctrines. But this one kind of just, sometimes it's higher, it peaks higher at certain times, I've noticed, and then certain times most of the time it's always going to coast. It never goes away, and that's Gentile salvation, whether it be, the other nations trying to make a claim for it, or it be our own people, Israel, and those that are knowing that they're Israelites still defending this claim as well. More of that even coming, right? But that's always been a thing. It never goes away. That's always going to be a battle, I promise, until Yahawashi comes and delivers the elect of Israel. All right, so we're going to deal with specifically right now Galatians chapter 3 and verse 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in the Mashiach Yahawashi. All right, this right here, people think because it's either neither Jew nor Greek, this is referring to all ethnicities or all different nations, where, hey, it doesn't matter. It's been interpreted like this. And this is, again, this is nothing new. This is not a new doctrine that just came out the woodworks. This has been like this, been taught like this in Christianity. So we've been, brothers been combating this one since. All right. And that's generally a common ground that most of the Israelite community, notice I say most, have an understanding that the scriptures lets them know that this Jew nor Greek is not talking about other nations. That all nations just come along, and because you got to understand, you got to have a continuity, a flow from the Old Testament, and nothing changed. The Most High is the same yesterday. Yahawashi is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But the Most High doesn't change, right? Neither of them do. Unless Jacob be consumed, right? Because the Most High could get rid of Israel. He could have just got rid of Israel. I'm just like, and that's the thing. When people try real hard to fight for this Gentile salvation, and they'll quote scriptures like these, but then don't go and try to break down any other scriptures to, validate their point. All right. So when we see here, I'm gonna try to keep it as straight to the point as possible. Really, with the Jew nor Greek, as the Greek, we know the Jew is dealing with, right, southern kingdom of Israel, and then the Greek, right, this is what gets people tripped up. You're thinking, oh, Grecian, start thinking about all these different. Here's where the Greek comes into play, right? This is where, if you really just go into the Apocrypha, if you believe that the Apocrypha is a part of the original Bible and it's not some made-up book, then there is really no reason for you to be tripping. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to, as someone who's been walking, in this walk for a while, from a carnal understanding, because we know from a spiritual understanding, it's the Most High blinding anyone that can't understand this. If they've been in here for years, months even, months, years, because that's one of the first things you learn. Salvation is only pertaining to Israel. All right, so what we're going to do right here, right? Let's take a look at Galatians 3 and 28. Let's get right into it, right? Let's go into the Greek word. Let's go into the word Greek. All right. So we're going to go into the word Greek.
Strong's G 1672. Hellene.
The word in itself means Hellene, right? Already. All right. So let's get into that word Hellene. We're going to get into a couple of outline of biblical usage definitions. A Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. You see, either by nationality, whether native of the mainland or of Greek islands and colonies, right? Either by nationality. Let's start right there, saying that this gives you an option, right? This doesn't have to be by nationality, by blood, to be a Greek. This is right. You can't, by blood, you're an American. That's your citizenship, right? Based off you inhabiting the land of the United States. Same thing with here. whether native of the mainland or of Greek islands or colonies. So if you inhabit that land, you're a Greek. And you could be an Israelite, which is what we're trying to tell you brothers and sisters that use the scripture, misuse the scripture in regards to it fitting for bloodline heathens, right? Being Greeks. Okay, that's you're misusing that. We gotta look into this, right? And not use these scriptures based off our emotion, but what is actually true, right? The volume of the book of Mashiach Yahawashi. All right. Now let's go to the next definition. In a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews. And then I know y'all thinking, oh, hey, not Jews. See, not Jews. Again, all Israel. Does all Israel, all 12 tribes of Israel consist of Jews? No. That would be your southern kingdom, which would consist of Jews. Northern kingdom would not be considered Jews. They would be considered Israelites, though. All right? That made the language customs. And even with that, too, side note, even with that, again, you could be a southern kingdom brother and still be, really, you could still be a Greek. Because if you're inhabiting that land, as this is about to tell you, you still are inhabitant of that area, right? You're inhabited. If you're in the land, if you're in the area of Greece, you know, guess what you're gonna be. If you're in the land of America, guess what you're gonna be. All right, and so on. That made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. All right, the primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship. So this anyone could be a Greek. They put on those fashions, those customs, right? You practice the ways of the Greek, you are a Greek, right? You practice the ways of the American, you are an American. Just like there are right non-melanated people that inhabit Jamaica. And when you think of Jamaica, what do you think of? You think of predominantly, right, what would be we know as Benjamites. That's what you would think of. You're going to think of darker skinned people when you think of Jamaica. Because that's the perception that predominantly is in our mind. And mind you, we do inhabitantly live there of our people. But that doesn't mean there can't be others that inhabit that land as well. And they're not from the tribe of Benjamin, right? Their bloodline consists of actual heathen from all, different nations. So that's learning the difference. Now let's go to the Strong's definition right here. Hellen, right? A Grecian or inhabitant of Hellas, by extension a Greek-speaking person, especially a non-Jew. Especially a non-Jew. That could mean a heathen. That could mean, and heathen could mean, could fall into Israelite as well. That could mean a heathen though, right? Could be of another nation, Ammon, Moab, Edomite, Ammonite. It also could mean what? Northern Kingdom Israelites, right? We're just a cupping to fit this definition right here, because it's just a country. You're dealing with just a country right here. Let's go look. The original Strong's G160, Hellas.
Strong's G1671, Hellas.
There we go.
Hellas.
Right? Greece, unstable, the Maori one, a country in southern Europe. That's all you're dealing with. So you inhabit there, you're a Greek. By that definition. It can be confusing to, interpret who's who, but you gotta understand these terms. That's why we can't just fit, hey, neither Jew nor Greek. The thing is, you can't just be a Jew. Right? You can't actually be a Jew as a bloodline thing. They turn that into a religion, those small hat people. But the actual Jews we know is from a bloodline, right? That's from Southern Kingdom. You can't be that, right? You could try to take customs, but you can't be that. All right. So just the word in itself alone, right? Just going into itself alone. And verse 29, if you be Hamashiachs, then are ye Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Well, who are we dealing with the promise, right? Who are we dealing with the promise that was given, right, to Abraham? When you think of Abraham too, you think of the God. Who is the God of, right? We think of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you use that motto, you can never go wrong, because that's what it is. He is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right. This verse reads in Genesis chapter 22 and verse 17, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. All right. And so when you're talking about that seed of Abraham, right, it's coming from Isaac to Jacob, just like we just mentioned, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that's what it's pertaining to. That's the seed that will inherit the promise of everlasting life. Other nations will be blessed in the sense of, if you want to use it from that aspect, other nations can be blessed, right? Blessing does not mean necessarily the gift of everlasting life, and pertaining to the other nations, it doesn't, because the covenant of that was made from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. That's the protocol, that's the lineage, that's who the covenant's been given to. Not Ishmael, not Esau, not Ammon, not anyone, right? So now, other than Abraham, Isaac to Jacob. So we see that, and that's, that promise. We see what that promise is, and who it applies to. All right, let's get into this real quick. Let's jump real quick to this. I had to look for a couple articles, because Esau be lying. In terms of when you deal with the Hellenization of our people, they be straight up lying, and a lot of them, they try to make it seem as though the Greeks and they're going to put Jewish, right? Because they don't want to see who the real people are. Of course, they weren't going to write that in these. You have to dig real deep for certain articles and to find certain things, right? But let's just get right here. I'm gonna read a little bit of this, right? That was dealing with Persia, so we'll read this pinpoint right here. And there might be a little bit more. So let's get in this real quick. Greek culture gradually penetrated the upper classes of the Jewish, right? Well, we know that's really talking about the Jews, right? The real Jews, of the Jews population. Right? Now, the process of Hellenization profoundly affected all aspects of the Jewish culture, or the Jew. Greek cities were established in Palestine, right? Greek temples were built and dedicated to non-Jew deities. Greek was soon spoken throughout the Jew world, right? Along with vernacular, Aramaic, and increasingly less frequent Hebrew. And let's also clear something straight too. They're saying Jew and Jewish, putting even there is confusion, because predominantly this would be what you see in the Bible as Israel, which would be the northern kingdom. Okay? When you're dealing with that, you're predominantly seeing the northern kingdom. That's where the split came, because for real, not saying that there wasn't Jews in the mix, in the midst of this, right? But predominantly we're talking about those who followed the Greek customs and it operated as such. You're dealing mostly with northern kingdom that did so. And again, not to say that there weren't people from southern kingdom that conformed to Greek ways, and that was in fact pushed upon us to have to try to operate in such manners to even live, right? And they really a lot of these articles that you try to come across actually try to hide that. Esau really be trying to hide the works that he that he does, tries to be innocent, throws rocks and hide his hands, right? The king of it. Let's see right here. During this period in Judea, social tensions heightened between the Hellenizers, who introduced Greek ideas and customs, and those traditionally inclined Jews who opposed Greek influence between the sophisticated cities and the conservative villages, between the urban aristocrats and rural farmers, and between rich and poor. Right? Many Jews found their faith and the continuity of their world threatened by these Greek intrusions. It has the book of Ecclesiastes, which is theological skepticism and occasional praise of reckless hedonism, is an example of profound effect this new culture had on traditional religious commitment. All right. They said that they found their faith, right, threatened by it. That's because, as we see, right, if you go just right into the book of Maccabees, that's what the Greek did. They definitely, as this next headline says, clamped down on our cultures. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to make it one world government, which, you know, the plan of that is still in arise now. So we're gonna see how that plays out with all this war, you know, with, you know, Israel, right? Them imposters still over there in Iran and, you know, China, North Korea. We're gonna see how all that plays out. But I digress from that right now. Hellenization intensified when Antiochus Epiphanes, the Seleucid ruler of Syria, claimed Judea and appointed Jason, a Hellenized Jew, which is true, Jason, a Hellenized Jew, to the office of high priest. Jason transformed Jerusalem into a Greek polis, or city or state, named Antioch, in honor of Seleucid king, right? And see, this did happen where, you know, there was people from our culture, right, that did turn and go over into the ways of the heathen. They went into Greek customs, where you read this right in the Maccabees, which another reason why they didn't want that book in. They don't want to go into that Maccabees, right? They don't want to give out the little bit that they give in here. Had to find this and dig around, right? But our people were Hellenized into participating in these Greekish customs, man. And as a result, over time, what are you going to get? They're going to be what they practice. All right, let's go over the First Maccabees real quick. This book of First Maccabees, chapter 1. All right. Well, let's just start off at 10 real quick. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage in Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men like Jason, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well, and certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So that did happen. They went after the king. There was these people that wanted to go and follow in the ways of the heathen, just like it's always been that way. Didn't want to serve the Most High God, didn't want to stay 10 toes down, and they go serve after the heathen and become coons. It's no different. The same story replayed, right? Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, abominations, and made themselves uncircumcised. How do we do that, right? Because you can't physically make yourself uncircumcised, so it's uncircumcision at the heart. Forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. They sold themselves to another set of people. You know how sick that is? Right, all right. Now let's jump down. Let's just see real quick. Let's get into something even more, just more straight, right? I mean, it is, all of this is right too. It tells you what happened. All right. All right, 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom, and that all should be one people. One world government is coming. One world government. They're going to do it in some, I don't know how, when, or what, some form of fashion, but it's coming. Right? I see that being very prominent to the introduction of the mark of the beast, right? But let's keep it going. And everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by the messengers on to Jerusalem, the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. Right? Forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Right? Set up altars and groves, chapels of idols, sacrifice swine's flesh, unclean beasts. They should also lead the children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of cleanliness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. And we keep it going, but that's really all that should be needed. So that tells you what happened with our people and why they became Greeks, if you will, right? You know, that should tell you all it is. When you look at Greeks, neither Jew nor Greek, it's telling you what happened to our people. They became Greeks. You know, that section of people became Greeks because they consented to Greek customs. All right, really enough more said on that. Especially at this point, you know, at this point in the game. Let's go to the book of. But for anyone that's still learning this, you know, definitely pray this could be edifying. So let's go ahead and get the book of Hosea. Let's get the book of Hosea, chapter 1 and verse 8. Now when she had weaned Lo-ammi, she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Most High God, call his name Lo-ammi, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. Cast them aside. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. It shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. It's talking about Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi, that one head, gathering Judah and Israel, which, if you know, Israel was changed to, it could be Greek, any of these, you know, like we went into any of these places that they were scattered across, right? Any of them. We get known by the places that we're at. But at the end of the day, the scattering still makes us Israelites. We're still Israelites. It doesn't change. And what I meant to say is that scattering just proves the point in prophecy that we are the people, right? So when you get to neither Jew nor Greek, we'll go ahead and go back there and close it out. There is neither Jew nor Greek, right? Meaning regardless whether you're in the custom, whether you've been a Jew holding it down in the customs, whether you're a Greek and you're conforming, coming back in Yahawashi Mashiach, right? Neither bond nor free, right? Servitude, right? There is neither male nor female, right? And, you know, and that's just meaning as believers. That's not saying that man or, you know, a woman is over the man. Okay, that's not what we're, you know, anything is being portrayed. I don't know where that straw man argument is coming from, but it's not saying that, you know, the woman is on equal bounds with the man. All it is just saying is they are counted as believers, just like the Jew nor Greek, all one in Hamashiach Yahawashi, because they're all counted as believers. So I hope this was edifying. I want to give all the praise, all the honor and the glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahawashi. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth that are learning and or teaching this gospel in truth and sincerity. Till next time, Yahweh willing. Hey, shalom.